It is already 4:05, so I'll request Shantilalji Maru Sahab, Zone Chairman, Jito Rajasthan, to address the gathering with his welcome speech. Shantilalji Maru Sahab.
आकाश जी, आप अनम्यूट कीजिए ना सबको।
यस, जय जिनेंद्र ऑल ऑफ यू। आज जीतो प्रोफेशनल फॉर्म एवं राजस्थान जॉन इसकी जॉइंट वेंचर में ये वर्तमान कोविड-19 जो विश्व की महामारी है, इसके कैसे जीने के तरीके पर चर्चा के इस मौके पर मैं हमारे हिंदुस्तान के विख्यात डॉक्टर सुधीर भंडारी, जो वर्तमान में प्रिंसिपल एसएमएस मेडिकल कॉलेज में और कंट्रोलर हैं, और इसके साथ पैनल में डॉक्टर जय सुराणा, जो पल्मोनरी स्पेशलिस्ट है विख्यात, जो यूएस में अभी है, जॉर्जिया में। इनका हार्दिक दिल से स्वागत करता हूं कि ऐसे समय में इन्होंने अपना अमूल्य समय निकालकर हम लोगों के लिए इस पर कुछ चर्चा करके जीने के तरीके बताने का ये करेंगे। और आज इस मौके पर जो इस आयोजन का कोऑर्डिनेशन जो कर रहे हैं, दिल्ली से जो हमारे हैं हरजी सुराणा साहब, जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जाने माने एडवोकेट हैं, और इसके साथ ही रवि जी जो वित्त विशेषज्ञ कलकत्ता से हैं, ये इस वेबिनार को कोऑर्डिनेट कर रहे हैं। इस अवसर पर मैं सभी पार्टिसिपेंट की जीतो प्रोफेशनल फोरम एवं राजस्थान जोन की तरफ से हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूं, और इसके साथ ही डॉक्टर सुधीर जी भंडारी एवं जय सुराणा साहब का भी मैं दिल से हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूं। आशा है ये हम सब पार्टिसिपेंट को इस वेबिनार द्वारा लाभान्वित होंगे और इस कोविड-19 से जीतने में हम सफल होंगे। थैंक यू।
Now, can I request Ajay Bora ji, Vice Chairman JPF, to say a few words?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Jito Professional Forum is a vertical of Jito, which consists of the professionals and which gets operated by the professionals. Its members include doctors, lawyers, architects, banking and financial services professionals, chartered accountants, and salaried executives, along with the engineers. So when we face these health-triggered economic uncertainties in this interconnected and interdependent environment, the importance of professionals and domain experts gets underscored and highlighted. Jito Professional Forum presents a platform where professionals can connect with the business community at large and create a collaborative advantage, which is the key to survive and thrive during these uncertain times. Today's session is in that spirit, where we can engage with the healthcare fraternity and learn from the visionaries and the pioneering efforts that they have been doing, like Sudhir Bhandari ji gave hydrochloroquine to the world, and Dr. Surana ji, who is, as you can see, is scrubbed already. He's about to go to his hospital, but he has been gracious enough to be a part of this session. So over to you, Harji.
Yeah. Is Ravi ji online?
Yes, I am online.
Yeah, please, Ravi ji, in your absence, we have asked Maru ji and Ajay ji to give their welcome address. Now you can, Ravi ji is the director in charge, JPF.
Joining from Kolkata.
Please, Ravi ji, give your welcome address.
Yeah. I welcome everyone who are attending this webinar on how to live life with caution when COVID-19 is around. As it is said, save one life, you are a hero, and save many lives, you are a doctor. I welcome the expert panel in today's webinar, Dr. Sudhir Bhandari, Principal SMS Medical College and Group of Hospitals, Jaipur, and Dr. Jay Surana, Pulmonologist, Columbus, Georgia. I also welcome all the office bearer of Jito Apex, Jito Rajasthan Zone, and JPF attending this webinar. Everybody wants a long and healthy life, so I am sure all of you will keenly hear the advice of our expert doctors. So without any further delay, I request our super talented person, Advocate, Supreme Court of India, and moderator of today's webinar, Sri Harsh Surana, to carry forward the session.
Thank you, Ravi ji, for your kind words. Sabhi ko Sadar Jai Jindra and a very good afternoon. As told to you, the topic of today's webinar is how to live life with caution in COVID when COVID-19 is there, with expert doctors from India and America. We are very fortunate that we have eminent doctors as speaker today. The whole concept and idea to organize this webinar was कि आज बहुत लोगों में बहुत फियर और अनसर्टेनिटी है और बहुत सारे मिसकंसेप्शंस हैं जो कि कोविड-19 से अटैच्ड हैं, बिकॉज ये पहली बार हुआ है कि ये नॉट इवन वन कंट्री बट इट हैज स्प्रेड टू ऑल द कंट्रीज थ्रू आउट द ग्लोब. और जिस तरीके से लॉकडाउन नॉट ओनली इन इंडिया बट इन ऑल ज्योग्राफीज, so it is happening for the first time. So just to clear those doubts, uncertainties and fear, we have organized this webinar. As our first speaker, we have Dr. Sudhir Bhandari, MD. He is the principal and controller of SMS Government Hospital at Jaipur and attached medical hospitals. He is a man of great achievements, has been awarded many a times, is having many degrees and a very famous doctor. So we are very fortunate that we have Dr. Bhandari with us, who will share his views on COVID-19. He is also the honorary physician to the His Excellency the Governor of Rajasthan. So we welcome you, Dr. Bhandari. And as our second speaker, we have Dr. Jay Surana, who has done his MBBS and MD from India, and now he is in America doing fellowship. He has done his fellowship in pulmonary medicine and internal medicine, and as a pulmonologist, he is working with many COVID patients. So we are very fortunate to have both eminent doctors and speakers. So not wasting further time, I'll straight away, first of all, welcome both doctors again to this webinar. And my first question to Dr. Bhandari Saab. Dr. Bhandari Saab, you have been practicing medicine for so long, must have encountered many old and new diseases, many kinds of bacteria, many kind of virus. But this is for the first time that something at this magnitude has happened. So how different is this COVID-19 virus? Over to you, Dr. Sudhir Bhandari ji.
Yeah, thank you very much. Before I answer to your specific question, I would extend my profuse compliments and appreciation to Harsh for taking such an initiative, and you have been on the forefront of GITO, and I compliment Harsh Surana for being so proactive for such important cause. I also thank for all the executives of GITO who have been here and who welcomed us. Very interestingly, it is the first instance that we have come across and which has taken the whole society for a toss. And we have got phenomenon, the personal, the social, as well as economical impact of this. If I talk about the effect of COVID, Rajasthan is one of the tourist attraction. Huge number of foreign nations comes, and Jaipur was the first of the city in Rajasthan to encounter few of the Italian tourists. On end of February, we got 3 Italian tourists who had a COVID kind of symptoms, and we picked up and we diagnosed it. To give you the background, that SMS Medical College Hospital, which is the country's one of the biggest hospital with almost 6,000 beds. So these COVID patients who were housed in SMS, we were already mentally prepared. There has been a lot of fear about the COVID, but having known the statistics, having managed the patients, we probably could save the first 3 COVID patients. So your specific question that how did we get to this? Yes, we have a plethora of COVID-19 patients. As on today, in SMS, we have 558 patients admitted, but we have been managing well. I would discuss some of the facts about it, that whenever COVID infection is detected, in 80 to 81% patients, it has a mild symptoms, or many patients may go unnoticed and it doesn't have any complication. In 15 to 16% patients, we have milder complication, but they respond to the supportive and medical treatment. And in 2 to 4% people who are elderly people, senior citizens, and who have comorbid associated medical conditions like diabetes, hypertension, heart problem, cancer chemotherapy or any chronic disease, they are very prone for complications. We were very lucky to use some of the drugs first time, which were followed later on, and which I would be giving logic later to you when we used hydroxychloroquine first time in Jaipur, which gave a wonderful response and which were later on picked up by the rest of the world, though it requires a lot of trials. So we have now quite systematized to deal with the COVID patient. Probably every citizen in our community in the country has to cooperate to break the cycle, what we did in our state, in our country, by bringing the total lockdown.
Okay. My question to Dr. Jay Surana, that America has not seen that many viruses, but common flu and flu was very prominent last year. So how America is taking COVID-19 virus? If you can throw some light on that. Dr. Jay Surana?
So I will begin with saying my hello to all the participants, and I will thank GITO and all the executives of GITO and Harsh for inviting me to be part of this discussion. As Dr. Bhandari has said, how Jaipur and India is dealing with COVID-19 here in the US, like any other country in the world, and especially US being a very diverse society. There are a lot of cases which have occurred here, and now in fact the US is leading and number of cases and number of deaths that have occurred throughout the world. Now, coming to your question as to why COVID-19 is different from other viruses, bacteria that we have encountered in our lifetime. So a few things about COVID-19 or the coronavirus which are unique. One, it is very contagious. It is spreading very fast all across the country. Every country has been affected. As per John Hopkins data, 185 countries have been affected so far. So almost every country in the world is affected. The reason that it is so contagious is because it is new to the humans. It is new to our immune system, and our immune system have not built the immunity to fight this virus so far, and that's why it is so contagious. The second thing is we don't have a vaccine as of now to deal with this virus. The third thing which is important about this virus is it is much more deadly as compared to the other viruses that we encounter in our day-to-day practice. This virus not only affects the lungs, but it can affect all the organs of the body, and in some patients, a small percentage of patient, it can cause what we call as multi-organ failure, and that can lead to death, and 1 to 2% of the patients are known to die because of COVID-19. It's not a huge number, but considering that the mortality from flu is about 0.1%, as compared to that, the mortality of coronavirus or COVID-19 is about 1 to 2%.
Okay, thank you. My second question to Dr. Sudhir Bhandari ji. Frankly, Dr. Bhandari, are Indians better placed because we have this BCG TB vaccine, then malaria, hydroxychloroquine is there, high immunity levels are there, high temperature, hot temperature is there. So are Indians better placed compared to other countries? Dr. Sudhir Bhandari.
Yes, there has been a lot of observations that there are a lot of asymptomatic COVID positive patients in our country. अगर मैं आपको इसके बारे में बताऊं कि अभी हमारे यहाँ पे जो 558 पेशेंट्स हैं, उसमें से 75% are asymptomatic patients. Asymptomatic patients means we picked up from the hot areas or hot zones, जहाँ पे epicenter of the COVID positive patients थे, उनमें कोई भी symptoms नहीं है. So definitely, काफी theories are in process that yes, Indians are responding less to the virulence of the virus. This could be one theory is that the जो भी avoid the virus है, which is less virulent in India or Southeast Asian countries. Secondly, it is believed that This vaccine, which is a part of all the Indian newborns, is giving immunity. The one of the very good articles have come. Spain में आपने देखा होगा कि इतनी fertility है. The huge fertility and morbidity has been noted down in Spain. Huge number of sickness and death has been noted down in Spain. वो एक ऐसा यूरोपियन कंट्री है जहाँ पे बीसीजी वैक्सीनेशन नहीं किया जाता है बच्चों को. बट द एडजेसेंट कंट्री टू स्पेन इज पोर्चुगल, और ये फिगर स्पेन में पोर्चुगल से 100 टाइम्स है. Specific answer to your question that BCG vaccine gives an immunity, it is worth thinking and worth considering because India में BCG vaccination rampant है, हर newborn को दिया जाता है. And if you look at the data of morbidity and mortality, Spain or Portugal जो adjacent countries है, probably Spain में issues were 100 times more severe than Portugal. So definitely it is a important mechanism जिसको भी सोचा जा रहा है. हमारे इंस्टीट्यूट में भी we have started the research on the response of COVID in the BCG vaccinated and very few un-BCG vaccinated. But yes, आपका जो observation है, which is a very logical observation, that Indians में asymptomatics are very high. मैं आपको उदाहरण के तौर पे देता हूँ. अभी तक हमारे पास जो 500 plus patients admitted है, उसमें से only because of COVID एक भी वेंटिलेटर पे नहीं है. 8 पेशेंट वेंटिलेटर पे हैं, वो 80 प्लस 75 to 80 प्लस के हैं, and they have comorbid conditions like diabetes, heart problem, stroke, kidney failure, etc. So definitely it is a matter of thinking, is this virus less virulent in our country, or BCG vaccine is protecting Indian population? It's a very valid thinking with the example of Portugal and Spain.
My next question to Dr. Surana is, America is the most advanced and developed country, but still they are unable to, we are seeing it every day on news channels and TV, that they are unable to control, and many casualties have happened. So how is this happening in the most advanced country? If you can throw some light on the medical perspective, because the most advanced medical facilities are there. Apart from vaccine, there are so many other things. So if you can explain on that.
That is a really good question, Harsh. And at this time, we don't know a lot about COVID. It is relatively very new, and our knowledge about COVID is advancing and is evolving every day, and for that matter, every hour. So we don't know a lot of things as to why this virus is affecting one country more than the other. Why are some places in a particular country having more prevalence of virus as compared to the other? But as Dr. Bhandari said, that there are a lot of observations as to why this is happening. Now, there are some theories which can explain why it is more common and more serious a problem in this part of the world. One is that the density of the population in some places like New York, Washington, California, and they have a very cosmopolitan society where a lot of people from different ethnicity and races live together. And there are a lot of travel which happened in the initial part of this pandemic, and that caused those countries and those places to develop hotspots, and the country was not prepared. The containment strategy, which was supposed to be there at an early point in this pandemic, were not present, and that led to an explosion of cases all over the country. Now, coming to the point of why is it affecting the country, even with the most advanced medical facilities that we can have, coronavirus does not have any mercy for any community. It is not sparing anybody throughout the world. It is, in spite of our knowledge and in spite of our technology and development, we are still trying to figure out why it is so deadly and why it is causing mortality in such a high number of patients. In the United States, we are prepared to deal with the complications of COVID-19, and the technology and the medical knowledge we have is preventing a lot of deaths which could have happened without the advanced medical capabilities that we have.
Thank you. My next question to Dr. Sudhir Bhandari ji, as I just asked about the immunity of Indians, there is a lot of other things apart from immunity, like the food habits and the use of spices and whatever. There is an alternative route of medicine also apart from general medicine, Ayurveda and other natural home remedies, like the use of turmeric, garlic, ginger. So that is also a very relevant part. And it is by the Ministry of Ayush also, it is being advertised that to use steam and all kind of spices. So are Indians, again I'm asking that our Indians are better placed when we have a particular set of food habits and where we use so many spices and natural products. So your observation on this, Dr. Bhandari sir?
I would not like to give credit to Indian food style or Indian food habits. I would like to relate भारत में जो problems कम हुई है, भारत में जो death rate कम हुई है, इसका credit मैं हमारी strategy और हमारे lockdown को देना चाहूँगा. You see all those countries जिन्होंने इसको liberally लिया, चाहे आप इटली का एग्जाम्पल लीजिए, चाहे फ्रांस का एग्जाम्पल लीजिए, यूरोप का एग्जाम्पल लीजिए और अमेरिका एग्जाम्पल लीजिए. जैसा कि जय सुराना ने वेरी एप्टली बताया कि ये बहुत हाईली कंटेजियस इन्फेक्शन है. वी हैव टू स्टॉप. जब तक इसके बारे में नॉलेज हमारी बढ़ेगी, जब तक इसके बारे में स्पेसिफिक ट्रीटमेंट आएगा, जब तक इसको हम कंटेन कर पाएंगे वैक्सीन के द्वारा, तब स्ट्रेटेजी ये होना चाहिए कि हम इसके स्प्रेड और इसके साइड इफेक्ट्स और इसके कारण डिजीज और इसके कारण डेथ रेट को कम करें. सो देयर इज अ वन एस्पेक्ट that we are in process of learning. Abhi tak we are struggling to have a specific treatment and specific method to control this. But jab tak hum specific method और treatment को control करने के बारे में हम adequately equipped होंगे, हमको इसको prevent करना है. इसके लिए coincidentally जो आपने food habits बताई, that is Indian food habits, but it is a highly contagious infection. And first mode is that इसमें स्प्रेड ऑफ इन्फेक्शन नहीं होना चाहिए. एग्जाम्पल, जब किसी पेशेंट को कोविड पॉजिटिव आता है, वो 3 days बिफोर ही इज टेकन एज ए कोविड पॉजिटिव इन टेस्ट, ही हैज ए कैपेसिटी टू इन्फेक्ट अदर्स. दूसरा, गुड नंबर ऑफ पेशेंट्स कोविड नेगेटिव हो सकते हैं, बट वो सुपर स्प्रेडर्स हो सकते हैं. तो स्ट्रेटेजी इज मोर इम्पोर्टेंट देन डाइट एंड फूड. डेफिनेटली न्यूट्रिशन आपकी इम्यूनिटी को बिल्डअप करता है. If you look at the America, yesterday तक अमेरिका के अंदर 47 to 50,000 deaths हो गई थी. I think Jay Surana will agree with me. In a population of 50 to 20 crores, 50,000 deaths, isn't it? आप उस फिगर को इंडियन पॉपुलेशन पे एक्सट्रापोलेट करें with 133 crores, it will be a frightening figure. So the strategy to control this highly contagious infection is टोटल लॉकडाउन, टोटल आइसोलेशन. एंड हमें ये पता होना चाहिए इन्फेक्शन कैसे स्प्रेड होता है. जब हम बात करते हैं, जब हम स्नीज करते हैं और खांसी करते हैं, तो ड्रॉपलेट के रूप में ये इन्फेक्शन अप टू 3 फीट तक जाके गिरता है. डिफरेंस स्वाइन फ्लू और नॉर्मल
Akash, Dr. Bhandari's video and voice has gone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now it's okay. Yeah.
Okay. So if you look at this, when we speak or when we sneeze or cough, droplets goes 3 feet and they can infect. But the difference between normal flu and swine flu is that these droplets don't live long. एक बार अगर हम लोग with a COVID-19 droplets, if you do, वो कहीं पे भी गिर जाएगी, on the table, on the handle or any solid state, and there these virus can stay active for 2 to 7 days or 9 days. So because of intense infectivity, specific and masking. It is very important that population at large should keep the mask percent, number one. Number two, they have to maintain a total social distancing. मेरे ख्याल से जिस तरह इंडिया में लॉकडाउन में सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग मेंटेन किया गया है, we have turned out to be the most successful country in the world. Except that one accident which happened in Delhi, and people from that Delhi accident traveled all over country. Otherwise, by now, हम लोग because of this social distancing, lockdown, masking, and hygiene, etc., हम लोग इसको
I think Harsh, we lost his videos.
Yeah. Okay. In the meantime, when Dr. Sudhir Bhandari joins again, can I ask you, Dr. Surana, about हम लोग यहाँ सुन रहे हैं अभी दिल्ली में भी और इंडिया में भी कि plasma therapy, because every day new theories are coming and new observations are coming कि plasma therapy successful हो रही है और antibodies treatment भी successful हो रहा है. अगर आप इन दोनों के बारे में कुछ if you can throw some light on these.
Definitely. I will just add one thing from what Dr. Bhandari just tried to explain is there are two main strategies to deal with this virus. One is containment strategy and the other is mitigation strategy. And I think India has successfully done the containment strategy to prevent the community transmission of the virus. And that's why we are seeing such less number of COVID positive patients and the number of death in India. As compared to that, United States and many countries in Europe have failed in the containment strategy, and what they are now doing is mitigation strategies, meaning that the community transmission has already occurred, but now they are trying to prevent the spread of the disease. So that is one thing which I think is very commendable for the Indian politician and the Indian health official, that it has having such less impact on the Indian society. Now, coming back to your question as to the number of therapies which are being discussed about and which are being talked about, and plasma therapy is one of the treatment modality that we are trying. We still don't have enough data to say that it works for everybody, but yes, it is coming as a promising therapy. What we do is in the convalescent plasma, we take the plasma or blood from a patient who has had infection with COVID-19 and has now recovered. The thought behind this is that the patient have developed antibodies against that virus, which are protective and which can protect the virus to infect the other people. So that plasma therapy or that plasma from patients who are infected and who have recovered is taken and is given to the patient who is seriously ill. And in some cases, it can also be given in patients who are high risk, like patients who are healthcare professionals or who have pre-existing condition. They can get that plasma, and the hope is that it prevents the severity of the infection, and it also provides immunity to that patient and help it to fight the virus and to fight the disease.
Okay. Do we have Dr. Sudhir Bhandari?
Yeah, I've come on the line. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. In your absence, I had asked the question. So I'll repeat the question to you. That we are, because you were and your team was the first one to use hydrochloroquine as a treatment and a combination of HIV and malaria drugs.
Yeah.
And there are other treatments also coming every day, like plasma therapy and antibodies treatment. So if you can throw some light on this, your experiment, unique experiment of combination of drugs, and further regarding the plasma therapy and antibodies therapy?
Harsh, one of the most important thing is that whenever there is a new issue or new disease, and more so when there is no specific treatment available. So when we got the first time 3 Italian patients, now we have almost 1700 patients treated at our institute. We had the biggest challenge, what do we do? And having had the experience of treating the swine flu, having read all about the literature of SARS virus, if you heard about, there used to be SARS and the MERS, Middle East viral disease in earlier 10 years before. So we checked up all the literature and we found out that hydroxychloroquine is a drug which definitely has some antiviral effect. It prevents the viral attachment to the lung parenchyma. At the same time, it also changes the pH of the cells where the viral replication is not there. So when we decided that we need to have a drug which really helps in reducing the viral load, viral replication with practically no side effect. Whenever we use a drug, we check the benefit side effect ratio. Hydroxychloroquine, we have tons of uses of hydroxychloroquine done for last decades together in rheumatoid arthritis, in malaria, in lupus, etc. So we have got a good experience. And the short duration for which hydroxychloroquine, which we use, it is so safe that the ratio of benefit versus side effect is all in favor of hydroxychloroquine. Then we checked up the literature of antiviral drugs like ritonavir and lopinavir. Though we have been using these antiviral drugs in HIV patients with utmost safety, they are as safe as can be given in pregnant ladies. So we started using them with utmost safety, and fortunately all our patients tolerated well. It required tremendous monitoring. I'm sure Harsh will agree with me. It requires tremendous hematological monitoring, biochemistry monitoring, the ECG, QT interval on ECG because it may not affect heart, etc., etc. Now, basically, these were our initial trials, which we used very confidently. Our trials were supported by French literature and French trials. Now, since it was a very initial use of our drugs, we found beneficial effect in a disease in which there was no specific treatment available. So we prefer to share with our medical fraternity that these are our initial observations. Hydroxychloroquine is a safe drug which can be used. It has a definitely pathophysiological effect on reducing the viral load, and hence we wanted more trials, more uses, and more blind studies to be done of hydroxychloroquine versus placebo. So because there was a tremendous ratio in favor of benefit rather than side effect, we used it. Now, today, we have been categorizing COVID patient in mild disease, no symptoms, mild disease, moderate and severe. In mild disease, we have been using with close monitoring of hydroxychloroquine. There's a new drug, azithromycin. There has been a lot of studies for and against, but a lot of French and other studies are showing results in favor. Though lopinavir and ritonavir have gone down in their stature, a lot of new drugs in America has come like remdesivir, etc. What Harsh talked about the plasma therapy, I think is a great choice of treatment in moderately, severely sick patients where we can take it from fully COVID recovered patients. So the bottom line is that आपके पास जब कोई specific therapy नहीं होता, आपके पास कोई specific treatment नहीं होता, you try to give supportive treatment to patient, you try to give medical treatment to the patient. At the same time, you try to use an established drug with the aim of reducing viral load, which has a strong benefits with practically negligible side effect. And fortunately, there has been a lot of studies recently also, yesterday also I got a lot of big trials in favor of hydroxychloroquine. But yes, if you look at the benefit versus side effects, a lot of benefits are in favor of hydroxychloroquine, but it has not turned out to be the sole drug. It has not turned out to be the ultimate drug. We need to go for a lot of bigger research, and then we have to quantify. Yes, it is a priority drug. Like in swine flu, we have oseltamivir. You got my point. You use oseltamivir, a specific drug for swine flu. That kind of a specific drug, like it could be in due course of time, remdesivir, which is being tried, could turn out to be. But yes, plasma therapy gives a good scope. We have also started in our country. And I hope we should be able to give you good results. And that's the way we begin with using hydroxychloroquine. And I'm sure a lot of research and a lot of trials are underway to prove it as one of the very effective drugs.
So
Now,
I will just
sure.
add to what Dr. Bhandari just explained. So COVID-19 is a disease which, as he rightly said, can be divided into mild, moderate, and severe cases. So in the mild cases, which is like 80% of the patients, they will either be asymptomatic or have mild symptom. Now, more and more
Yes.
studies are showing
Yeah.
that even when a patient have mild symptoms, it can progress to severe symptoms. So when we are talking about that 80% of the population, they can be managed with supportive treatment. They can be managed with like anti-fever medication.
Yeah, I think in a mild cases, we need not to give anything, or asymptomatic, we need not to give anything. Once they have minimal symptom, I think it could be wise, and especially in younger population, those who don't have any comorbid condition, no hypertension, no ISD, you must have seen, Harsh, when you were in India, you must have used much higher chloroquine than what you might be using in US today. Am I correct? During residency, you must have used a tons without any much side effects.
Yeah, that is very true. And Dr. Bhandari just told about the Indian experience. In the US, we are having mixed results with hydroxychloroquine. The percentage of people who are sick, they have already had the pre-existing condition, or they have underlying health conditions, especially people who have heart disease. They are more at risk of complication from hydroxychloroquine. We just had a study yesterday from VA, which is the Veterans Affairs Ministry of United States, where it said that hydroxychloroquine can cause more harm than good. So we are getting very mixed results over here. But as Dr. Bhandari said, that right now we don't have a cure for this disease. And when you don't have a cure for the disease, you want to stick to something which you think can help. And there are some mechanism of hydroxychloroquine, including the effect on the pH and the effect on viral shedding and viral replication, which are really promising and which have shown real promise in various other trials. So now coming back to the patients who have mild symptom, as we talked about, they are treated with supportive treatment, like plenty of fluids, proper sleep, and medications to decrease the fever. Now 20% of the patient will progress to severe or moderate symptoms, and those are the patients who might require to be admitted to the hospital. In the US, about 6% of the patient we are seeing who go on to be admitted in the ICU, and those patients who are in the ICU are very critically ill, and the mortality rate in those patients is very high. About 2% of the patient who are overall infected with coronavirus will most likely die from the disease. So the treatment have ranged from supportive treatment, supportive therapy, to all the experimental drugs, including hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, anti-HIV medication, antiretroviral or antiviral medication, and now plasma therapy, which is really showing great promise. And the research and the trials are ongoing so that we can make this available to the general population. And when the patient is in the ICU, they have to be on the ventilator support, and more studies are showing that around 70 to 80% of the patient who end up being on the ventilator eventually die from the disease. In US, we have...
Yeah, Jai, you agree?
In US, we have, I don't know if we have it in India, but we have a capacity called artificial lung, or ECMO, which is a kind of therapy in which we can take the blood from the patient. We can have that blood run through a machine which will oxygenate the blood and then go back to the patient's body. So ECMO is also coming as a very good tool in patients who are severely ill and who are in the ICU or on the ventilator.
Jai, how many % of the patients of yours in ICU you have put them on ECMO?
It is a very small percentage because of the high special.
In last 1 month, how many patients you might have put on ECMO?
We have, out of all the patients that we have, only one patient has been on ECMO.
Yeah.
And he is doing quite poorly right now.
Yeah, in fact, truly speaking, anyone who has a patch of pneumonia or anyone who is seriously ill, probably the high flow oxygen is a better choice, and an intubated patient on a BiPAP with the filter, etc. Because once the intubation starts, the prognosis, as you said, 70 to 80% patient don't come out of the ventilation. So probably a starting early high flow oxygen is very good. What we have been doing, Jay, here in India is that any person who is a borderline, especially after 80%, जो 80 to 95% के बीच में borderline patient है, who are reasonably not so well, who has a small patch of pneumonia, we have been monitoring the oxygen saturation of all the patients. What we do is that we give a pulse oximeter to every patient, and they themselves, if they are well read and educated, they maintain their oxygen saturation. Because we have got a huge number of patients, they keep reporting us on phone or video their oxygen levels, and the moment we see that there's a borderline like 90 or so, for a common knowledge of all the viewers, ऑक्सीजन पल्स ऑक्सीमीटर एक छोटा सा इक्विपमेंट होता है जिसको हम फिंगर पे लगा के अपना ऑक्सीजन लेवल बॉडी में देख सकते हैं, और वो लंग्स की कैपेसिटी के बारे में हमको बताता है. जिनको भी निमोनिया के पेशेंट होते हैं, लंग्स के पेशेंट होते हैं या कोरोना के पेशेंट होते हैं, वो हम पल्स ऑक्सीमीटर एक छोटा सा इक्विपमेंट लगा देते हैं, वो ऑक्सीजन लेवल्स बताता है. और अगर ऑक्सीजन लेवल्स फॉल होता है जैसे बिलो 90 और सो, दैट इज अ टाइम. कई बार पेशेंट क्लिनिकली और सिम्टोमेटिकली कहता है मेरे को कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, आई एम कंफर्टेबल, बट अगर उनको कोविड पॉजिटिव है और ऑक्सीजन लेवल फॉल हो रहा है, बिकॉज देयर इज ए गैप ऑफ 24 to 48 आवर्स जिसमें ऑक्सीजन सैचुरेशन फॉल होके पेशेंट सिक हो सकता है. सो दैट इज अ टाइम ही शुड इमीडिएटली रिपोर्ट टू द डॉक्टर. हम लोग हाई फ्लो ऑक्सीजन दे सकते हैं any better. So I think we depend a lot on oxygenation levels. High flow oxygen we start much before the ventilation. What is your take on that, Jay?
Oh, I completely agree. You know, in fact, here all the healthcare professionals have a pulse oximeter. So even not only the patient, but all the healthcare professional has a pulse oximeter, and they monitor their oxygen level. As you rightly said, that there is a lag period between the symptoms, start of symptoms, and your oxygen level dropping. Now, more and more research is showing that there is a condition called silent hypoxia in these patients.
Exactly.
And silent hypoxia means the low level of oxygen. The normal oxygen level in our blood should be more than 94%. So if it is less than 94%, and in patients who have lung disease, if it is less than 90%, then that is a cause of concern. And what this disease is different from other diseases is we are seeing silent hypoxia. Many a times the many a times the patient come to the emergency room and they are talking on their cell phone, and when we check their oxygen level, it is like 60, 70, which is unheard of, which is very rare. And we are seeing a lot of patients, and once you reach that stage where the oxygen level in your blood decreases and you have developed a pneumonia, then there is then the chances of you developing serious complication from this disease increases manyfold. So monitoring the oxygen level of the patients, of the healthcare professional, is a very important strategy to help prevent the patients from becoming seriously ill. And I agree with Dr. Bhandari that high flow nasal oxygen is a very important part of the treatment in these moderate to severe patients. Once they are showing signs of deterioration, even on the high flow nasal oxygen, that's when we use what we call as a non-invasive ventilator, which is a BiPAP machine. And if the BiPAP machine also fails, then that is when we shift the patient to a ventilator. A ventilator is nothing but a machine to artificially force the oxygen or air into the lungs so that we can give the patient body the time to recover from this virus.
Jay, how do you protect droplet infection in BiPAPs? Do you use the filters? Because that's a challenge with BiPAP. We would love that patient respond to BiPAP, unko ventilation ki avashyakta nahi ho. So do you have the filters in BiPAP, or you use the hood to prevent the droplet infection in BiPAP?
That is a very good question. The concern for droplet spread by the droplet remains high in patients who have BiPAP, or even if they are on high flow nasal oxygen, we use a method of treatment called nebulization in these patients, and that also increases the chance of droplet.
We don't use nebulize. Yeah.
Yeah, we have filters in the BiPAP machine that can catch some of the droplets, but yes, the most important thing is to wear the proper protective gear so that we can prevent the spread of the disease from the patient to the nurse or to the doctor who is working with the patient.
Fine. I think great information, Jay. I think to all our viewers and Jito members, I would like to share one fact is that suppose any friend or family member turns out to be COVID positive, he is looking healthy, he's talking healthy, but I would strongly recommend that they should keep monitoring, because these days the Government of India guidelines are there that anyone who is even COVID positive with no symptoms or mild symptoms is allowed home quarantine. Because of the big number of patients, what we are doing in our country, that all those who are COVID positive without any symptom or COVID positive with minimal symptoms, we are allowing them to go home in total quarantine, isolation, taking all protection. But all those people, I would strongly recommend that they should keep monitoring their oxygen levels with pulse oximeter, because for 24 to 48 hours up, you could be in the low oxygen state without having any symptoms, and then suddenly emergency may arise. So that is a mark of caution. You should be very careful about it. But at the same time, it is most important, the only way, since we are still little away from the specific treatment of COVID-19, make sure that each and everyone protects by nasal mask and does all the basic sanitization for hand. I'm sure Jay will agree with me.
No, that's absolutely right. And one thing that I would like to add here is we are seeing a lot of trend here in the United States that patients are self-medicating themselves with hydroxychloroquine. They are somehow getting the medication and self-medicating, which can be very harmful. And as Dr. Bhandari said that, you have to have a very close monitoring on these patients who you are starting on hydroxychloroquine, or for that matter, any kind of treatment. You have to monitor their renal function, you have to monitor their liver function, you have to monitor their EKG. So you should not treat yourself when you are having the virus or when you are having the disease. You should depend upon the medical professionals, your doctors, to help you deal with this disease.
Yeah. Now my एक बहुत ही direct question Dr. Bhandari जी के लिए. We are hearing about one more observation, and that is herd immunity. So एक theory है कि ये COVID-19 virus सभी को होगा, like common cold और flu सभी को होता है, तो ये COVID-19 भी एक बार सभी को होगा. और herd immunity का जो एक नया एक observation कुछ यूरोपियन कंट्रीज में चल रहा है. So what is your take on herd immunity and the possibility of each one of us being infected by COVID-19? Dr. Bhandari?
हर्ष, ये तुम्हारा बहुत ही अच्छा क्वेश्चन और ऑब्जर्वेशन है, बट इसको आंसर करने के पहले मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देना चाहूंगा. आपने नोट किया कि कोई भी आपका गेस्ट अगर अमेरिका और यूरोप से आता है एंड यू टेक हिम आउट फॉर डिनर, सेम डिनर से आपको और आपकी फैमिली को कुछ भी नहीं होगा, बट नेक्स्ट डे जो आपके अमेरिकन गेस्ट आए हैं उनको टमी अपसेट और डायरिया हो जाएगा. एम आई करेक्ट कि दिस विल हैपन? दिस इज बिकॉज हम जिस कंट्री में रह रहे हैं, जहाँ पे जिस चीज का एक्सपोजर होता है, बॉडी में इनहेरेंट इम्यूनिटी डेवलप हो जाती है, जिसको कि हम हर्ड इम्यूनिटी बोलते हैं. नाउ सिंस ये कोविड-19 इज ए ग्लोबल प्रॉब्लम, ये कम्युनिटी में होने लग गई है. हमें पता नहीं कि हमारे को माइनर कॉफ कोल्ड के अंदर वी माइट हैव कॉन्टेक्टेड सम कोविड काइंड ऑफ इन्फेक्शन, एंड हम लोग उस 80% एसिम्प्टोमेटिक और माइल्ड सिम्प्टोमेटिक में हैं, which look like a normal flu. So over the months and more time, over the weeks and months, population at large इस infection से expose होगी, और जब इस infection से expose होगी, अभी तो world as a whole इससे expose हो रहा है, तो obviously the population at large is going to develop the herd immunity, and I'm sure we are going to be benefited by this herd immunity. अगर आपको इंडिया में देखा होगा 5 से 7 साल पहले स्वाइन फ्लू was a main killer. Swine flu was as deadly as today COVID-19 is there. But अभी स्वाइन फ्लू के पेशेंट्स कम होने लग गए हैं, मॉर्टिलिटी मीन्स डेथ भी कम होने लग गई है, पेशेंट रिकवर भी ज़्यादा होने लग गए, बिकॉज ओवर द पीरियड ग्रेजुअल एक्सपोजर कम्युनिटी होने से इम्यूनिटी बन जाती है. सो ऑब्वियसली कोविड-19 में भी बिकॉज ऑफ द ग्लोबल इम्पैक्ट लोगों का एक्सपोजर होने से इम्यूनिटी लेवल बढ़ने वाला है. आपको मालूम होगा कि देयर इज ए लिटिल, एक मैं आप यहाँ शेयर करना चाहूँगा दैट इट इज लाइक ए इन्फ्लुएंजा. एक कॉमन व्यक्ति को ये पता होना चाहिए कि फ्लू, कॉमन फ्लू और कोविड-19 इन्फेक्शन में क्या फर्क है. कॉमन फ्लू के अंदर जुखाम, रनिंग नोज, ब्लॉक नोज ये बहुत अधिक होता है और देयर कुड बी फीवर और नो फीवर. मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम इज ए ब्रॉडर, ऐसा फास्ट रूल नहीं है. बट कोविड-19 के अंदर कॉफ इज ए इंपॉर्टेंट सिम्टम एंड हाई ग्रेड फीवर इज ए इंपॉर्टेंट सिम्टम. ब्लॉक नोज और रनिंग नोज हो सकता है. सो द इम्पॉर्टेंट एक कॉमन व्यक्ति को ये भी डिफ्रेंशिएट करना है कि उसको फ्लू है या कोविड-19 के रिलेटेड सिम्टम है, बिकॉज अभी इंक्रीज इंसिडेंस हो रहा है. तो persistent cough with high grade fever and followed by breathlessness, सांस में दिक्कत goes in favor of COVID. Block nose, running nose and mild fever goes in favor of flu, but there could be overlap of symptoms, so don't, but this is just a mark of caution. So because of population affection हम लोगों का herd immunity बढ़ने वाला है, and I'm sure till the vaccination comes, vaccination later plus building of herd immunity, I think we are going to protect all of us in due course of time.
But Dr. Bhandari, is there chance कि each one of us can be infected by this virus?
You know, ये एक ऐसा statement है हर्ष, हम possible, लेकिन मैंने क्या बताया, बहुत लोग asymptomatic होते हैं, बहुत लोग में mild symptom हो सकता है. It is just like that कि क्या हम each one of us will be affected by flu. मेरे ख्याल से जीवन में अपने लाइफ टाइम में हर एक को 1, 2, 4 बार फ्लू होता ही होता है. So it is a kind of flu, but highly infectious flu and a flu with deadly complication. Normal flu और COVID-19 flu में क्या फर्क है? COVID-19 flu 10 to 15% केसेस में निमोनिया पैदा करता है, 2 to 5% केसेस के अंदर मल्टी ऑर्गन फेलियर पैदा कर देता है. So जैसा कि हर्ष ने बहुत नाइसली बताया कि mortality rate in flu is 1% and COVID-19 is 2 to 3%. So it is a kind of a flu. एंड 80% पेशेंट में सिम्टम नहीं होता है. सो जितना हमारा चांसेस है फ्लू होने का, उतना चांसेस कोविड-19 का भी होने का है. बट वी नीड टू बी केयरफुल बाय टेकिंग प्रिकॉशंस. सो बॉटम लाइन इज दैट यस, हमको भी हो सकता है एंड वी नीड टू बी केयरफुल.
Yeah, these are really very good questions. And just to add on what was just explained, the term herd means a large group of people. So herd immunity is when there is a large chunk of the population, it gets either infected and has recovered, or if they have vaccination so that they are immune to the disease. The concept is in some parts of the world, and in some experts are saying that in order to achieve herd immunity, why don't we infect all the patient or all the population at one time, so that we can develop herd immunity quickly, and that will protect in spread of the disease. So that concept has some merit to it, but the main concern here is how do we prevent the overwhelming of our hospitals and our health system that we have. And for that reason, you know, we are doing all we can to prevent the spread of the disease. Just to give an example about how herd immunity works and how not having the herd immunity can affect the health system in any country is like considering the example of the hospital as like office bathrooms. You know, in an office, you will have 1 or 2 bathrooms. So if all the people want to go to the bathroom at the same time, there will be a problem. But if one want to go to the bathroom but at a different time, it is okay. So similarly with the COVID-19 is that we want to develop the herd immunity slowly. I am sure that, you know, all of us at some point in our life will get the infection. Most of us, 80% of us will recover from the illness. The main strategy or the main emphasis right now is to prevent this from becoming an overwhelming population or overwhelming problem which we cannot handle. And I think that might be your experience also, Dr. Bhandari.
Yeah, Harsh, I feel the fastest way of developing herd immunity is that we should isolate our senior citizens and people with the comorbid condition totally, what Israel has done. If you look at the Israeli model, Israel has done all the senior citizens and all the people with the comorbid condition like diabetes, hypertension, risk people, Israel has practically locked them. So these are the people who are falling in the 2 to 3% high risk patient of the mortality. तो जो 2 से 3% लोग हैं जिनको रिस्क टू लाइफ है, आप उनको टोटली लॉक कर दीजिए, टोटली ब्लॉक कर दीजिए, उनका एक्सपोजर 0 कर दीजिए. और जो सेफ लोग हैं जो कि मिडिल एजेड, यंग, जिनमें मोर्टेलिटी के चांसेस बहुत कम हैं, उनको अगर हम लिबरल विथ ऑल द प्रिकॉशंस अलाउ कर दें, so the herd immunity will develop faster. At the same time, we will protect our elderly population. So I think that should the model that should work better, that yes, we could be liberal with the younger age group so that gradually the herd immunity develops with the community spread of infection in that group of population where there is no risk to life. And we have to protect all the senior citizens so that when the immunity level goes up, definitely they also stand protected.
Thanks a lot for both the speakers' views. I think Harsh Uncle is trying to log in again. He's having some technical difficulty. In the meantime, can we take a couple questions from the audience? We had a few questions in the audience. I'll just unmute. We have Dr. Mamta Jain. If you can go ahead and ask your question.
Dr. Mamta ji, please go ahead.
Thank you. This is Dr. Mamta Jain, Medical Superintendent, Maharaja Agrasen Hospital. Okay. I've got two questions to be asked from Dr. Bhandari first. One is because he mentioned about the role of BCG vaccination. So does it mean that if we want to enhance the immunity, can we give the booster dose of BCG in the people of the age above 40 or 50 something?
Sure. And after that, over to you, Harji.
And what is the second question?
Second question is plasma therapy. You said that how long it has to be given, just 1 dose or 2-3 dose, or I mean, what is the quantity?
Okay,
because I have to suggest to my pathologist and the doctor. And then third question is role of stopping AC inhibitors in the hypertensive patients.
Okay.
And the outcome.
Okay. Now the first question, you know, this has been the recent observation. I gave you the best example of Portugal and Spain. Yes. Adjacent countries. Spain saw so much of mortality and morbidity, while Portugal has 100 times lesser issues because Portugal has been taking BCG vaccination. It is being observed that those people who are BCG vaccinated, they have some inherent immunity. Your specific question that now, will it be valid to give to the 40 plus patients? Yes. Probably we need to document it because what are the implications of BCG at this age? What are the antibody level? In fact, we are lucky that SMS Jaipur is one of the national institute in country in collaboration with CSIR. We have started this project of studying the antibody levels in symptomatic, non-symptomatic, vaccinated, non-vaccinated patients, etc. So specifically, randomly by this observation, it will not be prudent to give a booster dose as 40. Let us wait for authenticated results to come. Second question of the plasma therapy, you know, all of us has been giving tons of plasma. One of these patients, I would share with Harsh also, that these patients who were not critically ill, but they had hemodynamic issues as well as hematological issues. They had raised D-dimer, they had raised FDP, they had increased interleukin L, they had increased procalcitonin. So there was a lot of hematological disorientation in these patients, and in few patients we use simple plasma for hematological disorientations. Now this plasma therapy has a specific indications that people with mild to moderate disease with falling oxygen saturation with pneumonia, and the donor need to have adequate levels of antibody, that is 1:60 or less. It should be post 28 days after he's negative, etc., etc. So it sounds very encouraging. If you look at most of the international studies, there's a study of 6, 8, 10 patients. But I'm sure in our country, we should be able to do a bigger study. And in due course of time, you must be knowing, being in India, that we require a clearance from ICMR, which we have recently got it. And it sounds logical. All of us has been doing enough plasma therapy. And I hope this plasma therapy in COVID patient doesn't look to be difficult. So it should have an encouraging effect, and we should go ahead. There are all the reports so far, except that anaphylaxis, etc., etc., that will be taken care by proper matching, but it sounds all logical thing. Thirdly, the use of ACE receptor, ACE inhibitors. ACE inhibitors are not, initially it was thought that they should not be used because it was found that COVID virus attaches to the ACE receptors. And but now there is nothing, they can be safely continued and they can be safely allowed in a patient who is suspected to have COVID or who is COVID positive, or you need not to stop the ACE inhibitors or ARBs in elderly patient. Initially, it was found to have some reservation, but now it is, a lot of studies have come. There's no need of changing or stopping the ACE receptors in suspect or in a diagnosed or in elderly people who are prone to have infection.
Over to Harsh.
Before we take further questions, my one question to both our eminent speakers, that there is so much news on TV and government is also promoting that you should wear mask, you should wash your hands, social distancing. But what, according to you, are the precautions that our members and our participants should follow? In your words, what are the precautions everybody should take so that they can prevent from COVID-19 happening to them? Dr. Bhandari, sir.
Let me tell you one thing. At this stage, the prevention is the only cure. It is must and it is mandatory that everyone has to have the mask on, and no one in the streets should step out of the house without a mask. Even the domestic help should wear the mask. It is the masking which will prevent the spread of the asymptomatic patient, and it will also prevent you contacting the infection from the anyone. Secondly, since, as I told you, that this virus may stay on any of the hard surfaces from 2 to 9 days, we don't know where we have touched hands and where some person who has thrown the droplets over there. Frequent hand washing and frequent cleaning of the hand for 20 seconds. There has to be proper cleaning for 20 seconds with any soap or detergent or the sanitizers. It is very important. Thirdly, I would also recommend that the source, the entry where this virus finds its way is through the nasopharynx and the throat. So I would recommend, like, if preventive wise, if you keep gargling or if you keep taking the sips of warm water, and if you can take the steam to clean your sinuses, sometime it could also be better. I must share with you that I'm on a state advisory committee to the government, and today only in the state advisory committee to the government, I gave a very interesting proposal, because we have got a certain hot spot or the dense areas of spread in Jaipur. I said, sir, wherever there's a curfew, there should be a strong fine, like you find any pillion rider or the two-wheeler rider without helmet, that anyone steps out of the house without the mask need to be fined. That is the importance of covering and masking, which is very important, and probably this may go on for some time, because we have seen the perfect benefits of lockdown, isolation and masking. I think it is very important. I would like to know what Harsh thinks about it.
Yeah, Dr. Surana, your take on what precautions everybody should take?
I agree with most of the points that Dr. Bhandari just said. Just to add on what he said, hand hygiene and social distancing is the most important factors which can prevent the spread of this deadly virus or this deadly disease. So hand hygiene, meaning washing your hands properly for about 20 seconds. And then after washing your hands, you should prevent you touching your face or your nose or your mouth. We as human beings are in the habit of touching our face or our eyes. So it is very important that we don't touch our face or our mouth or our eyes in this kind of environment. So proper hand hygiene and social distancing. Now social distancing can be in different forms. In India, I think one of the most important things that the Indian government has done is a complete shutdown and lockdown. So that is a very important factor in preventing the spread of the disease. On top of it, whenever you are going out, it should be mandatory and it should be legal that you have to wear a face mask so that you can prevent the spread of the virus. So the face mask is shown not to prevent or not to protect you from getting the virus, but it has shown to protect the people to spread the virus. So let's say I have the virus. So if I am wearing the mask, I will protect the other people from getting the virus. So it's very important to prevent the community transmission of the disease, proper hand hygiene, social distancing. If you are in a place where there are a lot of people, first of all, we should stay away from crowded places. If you are around people, then have a distance of at least 6 feet or 2 meters between one another. That is also a very important factor that can prevent the spread of the disease. On top of it, it is very important that we stay healthy, we follow healthy lifestyle. That is very important. You have to eat healthy. There are a lot of things which increases the immunity. As Harsh, you just said that there is a lot of emphasis on the Indian food, and I would just tell you that in US, in all the pharmacies and all the stores, we get turmeric capsules. So haldi ke capsule, they are out of the shelf because haldi has shown to be having anti-viral and it increases the immunity. So eating healthy, staying hydrated, plenty of fluids. You should stay hydrated, taking proper rest and sleep. These are some of the factors that can protect you and protect the society as a whole from spreading this virus.
Okay. Now we can take few questions. I have received many questions. So Akash, if you can unmute Suresh Surana, then after that GS Singhvi and Sohan Jain one by one. You can unmute them. They can ask their question and you can mute again. First, Suresh Surana, Akash.
Good morning, Dr. Jain. Good evening, Dr. Jain, and good morning, Dr. Jai. My question is, some years back there was swine flu and they were treated with Tamiflu, or some were given preventive Tamiflu. So in present, are they safe from the coronavirus?
Dr. Bhandari can take this question.
Yes. Truly speaking, oseltamivir is not a drug recommended for COVID-19. Initially, few cases it were tried, but it is not a drug recommended. As far as swine flu is concerned, it is a drug of choice for swine flu, that is H1N1, and it is also a recommended drug for the prevention of disease in the context of the swine flu. So it is although it is a drug, can be used as an antiviral drug. So if it can be combined in the cocktail of the COVID-19, it is okay, but it's not a specific drug and you can't rely and depend upon this drug.
Dr. Jain, I was just wanting to know whether who have taken Tamiflu, are they safe even after 4 or 5 years from this corona?
No, I don't think that that is the case. The antiviral or oseltamivir is a treatment for swine flu or the flu that is prevalent. It is not a treatment for COVID-19, and it does not protect you from getting either flu or any kind of viral infection in the future. So if you have taken oseltamivir or Tamiflu in the past, that does not protect you from getting the flu or a different strain of the flu in the future.
Yeah,
Thank you, Doctor. Yeah.
Yes, Singhvi sir.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Jain and Jay.
Lot of thanks to both the doctors. Wonderful presentation, wonderful clarification and satisfaction. I have two questions. One is this lack of lockdown in America is the reason of so much of calamities? First point. Second, which country is the closest to the vaccine? China, Israel, UK, America, or India? And by what?
I think we missed the question. He went offline for a moment.
Okay, you can answer his first part, Dr. Surana.
So yes, you know, the virus has affected United States more severely as compared to India and a lot of other countries because I think we have been slow in putting up the strategy of containment. We did not take it seriously enough in the beginning and there were no travel restriction, there was no lockdown, and that helped in the community transmission of the virus. And once the virus comes in the community, then there is not much you can do except for decrease the effect of the virus. So I think one very important factor which had led to the spread of the virus here in America is that we did not have lockdown early on in the disease, which has led to community transmission of the virus, and that has led to so much of death over here in the United States. Now coming to your second question as to the vaccine question, there are like 180 trials all throughout the world which is going on right now regarding the vaccines. And in the UK, just 2 days back, they had injected the first 2 patients with the vaccine, and they will be monitoring him or them over a period of few months and year and see how do those patients do with it, how much immunity, how much antibodies they build. So there are actively 180 trials which are going on all across the world, main in Europe and in America. I'm not very sure about the Indian scenario here, but yes, there is active trials, and the first 2 patients have been injected with the vaccine, and we will see how much antibodies and how much immunity they develop over a course of time.
Akash, Mr. Padam Jain from Bangkok wants to ask a question. Padam Jain from Bangkok. Or we have Sohan Jain from Hubli.
Yeah.
He can ask a question.
Happy evening, all the doctors and panelists, and thanks, Harsh bhai. See, now as India, we have seen that primary contacts are almost getting over, and apart from social distancing and using of sanitizers, nose masks, what do you all feel that India is more vulnerable to catch this disease?
So the main concern right now is what will happen when these social distancing or lockdown will be lifted. I think that is the main concern, and we hope that the disease get controlled before that, and we don't see the number of cases jump after the lockdown finishes. So that is a big concern, and we will have to see, wait and see how that happens. But the hope is that the transmission of the virus has decreased to that level that it will not be any more of a problem, in the sense that we will be able to manage. A lot of patients will still get infected, a lot of people will need hospitalization, but with lockdown, with other strategies of social distancing, we are hoping that we will prevent the fast spread of the virus and it will be manageable. So that's the hope, but let's see how it happens in the future.
Yeah, Shantilalji Mehta from Udaipur is asking a question to Dr. Sudhir Bhandari, that how virus can spread from restaurants and fast food chain centers.
Basically, basically, definitely restaurants and fast food, both, or anything which exposes you a contact, if not taken adequate precaution, exposes you to the risk of spreading. You know, lot will depend upon the hand hygiene of the people who have been working in the restaurant, who have been your predecessor clients and customers who have come there. You don't know that who are the people who have visited before you, whether they were carriers or whether they were spreaders. You don't know anyone who has coughed or put his hand on the table, and you need to know the people who deliver your food at home, they have a hygienic precautions taken or not. Recently in Delhi, there was a delivery boy who was COVID positive, and he delivered food packets to 70 families, and in turn he infected 400 plus people. So in the present era, when the community spread is there, I think any dining out in restaurant or ordering food from home delivery, probably it will be risking unless you are absolutely sure that all the protocols of hand hygiene and droplet infection has been followed. It will be too much risking in a present scenario.
We have Dr. Santosh Shetty, famous knee surgeon from Bombay. Akash, if you can unmute him. He wants to ask a question. Or Mr. Padam Jain from Bangkok.
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes, Dr. Shetty.
Yeah, Dr. Harsh, this is an excellent initiative by Jito. Let me thank you everybody for this informative session. My question is to Dr. Bhandari. We've been hearing that there are multiple strains of COVID-19. Is it true? And if this is true, what kind of strain are we dealing with?
Dr. Sethi, you are absolutely correct. One thing is sure, if you look at the morbidity and mortality in China and Italy, which are much higher than in India, there has been a concept that the virulence of Indian strain could be lesser, or it could be BCG-induced immunity, or it could be something to genetics. We have been a part of gene sequencing study. We have already sent 70 plus samples from our group of patients to CSIR, and probably it will be little premature. But the way world over, there is a difference in the morbidity and mortality and the increased number of asymptomatic patients in some countries like India makes us definitely feel that there is some difference in the strains of the COVID virus, as you know. So I think one thing is sure, there appears to be some difference in the strain which has been numbered and labeled. Probably let us wait for some more time for establishing this fact publicly.
We have Dr. Akriti Jain from Delhi. Dr. Akriti Jain from Delhi. Akash. Or Dr. GC Mehta from Jaipur. Both wants to ask a question. Dr. GC Mehta. Yeah, please ask your question, sir.
Sir, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Hello.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, please.
Good evening, Bhandari sir. Good evening, Surana sir, and good evening, everybody. Thanks so very much for opportunity. Bhandari sir, आपसे एक question है. As a radiologist, I am asking this question. There is some discrepancy. What I have read in WHO literature, they say RT-PCR is for research purpose, not for diagnostic. And where do you relate these two things, like this RT-PCR and quick tests, which are going to be available very shortly?
I think it is $1 million question. Basically, it's a question for medical fraternity. The gold standard test for establishment of COVID-19 testing is a RT-PCR. Let me again repeat, gold standard test is RT-PCR, and RT-PCR confirms the presence of virus. There are different ways of taking RT-PCR sample. The nasopharynx is the choicest sample where the sensitivity is 80% plus. The oropharynx, there's this much lesser sensitivity, and if you take both the sample, sensitivity rises. Although sputum also has 50 plus sensitivity. The rapid antibody test, what does it mean? I must explain to you. Rapid antibody test confirms the presence of antibody in the blood. Whenever someone is exposed to a COVID-19 virus, then antibody response arises in a person. This, after 7 days of exposure, IgM antibody appears, and after 14 days, IgG body appears. Now, suppose you do 100 rapid tests, and in 50% you find the rapid test being positive. It just shows there has been an exposure of patient to the COVID virus. It is a good test for community surveillance. A positive antibody test just shows that patient has an exposure to COVID virus, and you are not very sure whether he is a spreader, whether he will continue to be asymptomatic, or whether he will be a spreader. Hence, protocol-wise, any person who is positive with the antibody test need to be subjected to PCR testing to confirm that he is not harboring active virus, or any person who is IgM or IgG positive need to be observed for any symptoms to develop. So bottom line is that any rapid test positive has to be confirmed for harboring of active virus by RT-PCR. The negative antibody test confirms that patient has no immunity to the COVID-19 virus. He has not been exposed. These are the patients who need to be isolated and quarantined very intensely, because they are very prone to catch, more so if they fall in the high risk group of 50, 60 plus or comorbid condition. So gold standard for testing is RT-PCR, and next is the community surveillance rapid test. Now, since Dr. Mehta, you are a radiologist, I must share with you that HRCT is the gold standard, like the viral pneumonias or swine flu, and we have been doing ultrasound of lung also as documentation, and we have seen many of patients. One of our research papers have recently gone to Lancet also yesterday only, that ultrasonic findings in a normal looking X-ray, but they are picking up the B lines and some early signs of ultrasound of the pneumonia. So ultrasound is also your field. You could expertise a good scope of doing in COVID patient. But RT-PCR is gold standard, and antibody or rapid test is only for community surveillance.
We have with us former High Court Judge Rajasthan Justice Raka Saab. Akash, if you can unmute J.K. Raka, he wants to ask a question. Akash, can you identify? Yeah.
Hello.
Sir, we can hear you.
Yeah. Dr. Bhandari, Dr. Surana, and dear Harsh. So nice listening to all of you. Very small question, that what stage we are now entering into. Because people say we have crossed second stage, we are entering the third stage. How many stages are there? One. Second is, in this heat conditions like Rajasthan, we are touching almost 40 degrees. People say and reports say that it will die down soon. But what is the actual theory coming out of experiments being done by the doctors? These two questions.
So regarding the question of heat, there is a lot of research which is ongoing, and what we know so far is that sunlight, especially the ultraviolet sunlight, can help decrease the survival of the virus outside the body. So if a virus which is on a surface is exposed to sunlight or the ultraviolet light, that survival of that virus can be and is what it is thought that it can decrease the survival of the virus. But we have more studies now. There is some conflicting ideas here. A lot of countries which already have like summers, like Australia and parts of Iran, they are still having the spread of the virus in spite of the hot condition or humid. So we will see, you know, this is a new virus. We don't know much about it. So it will be interesting in the coming months. Once the summer is here, we will have to, you know, keep a close watch on it and see if the number of cases decreases or not. But if it behaves like a normal flu virus, which it can in the future, then definitely it will wane down in the summers, but there is a possibility that it will come back in the fall and in the winters. So right now what we are trying to find is how it will be affected by the weather and whether it will behave like a normal flu virus or the swine flu in the past.
Okay. Akash, Padam Jain.
हाँ जी.
जी, Padam Jain from Thailand.
हाँ, मेरा डॉक्टर साहब से क्वेश्चन है. कैन यू हियर मी?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
ओके. मेरा डॉक्टर साहब से क्वेश्चन है कि विटामिन डी और विटामिन सी लेना अब इस समय कितना हेल्पफुल है. यहाँ पे बैंकॉक में डॉक्टर्स ने मेरे को सजेस्ट किया है कि आप विटामिन डी लीजिए. तो अमेरिका में विटामिन वगैरह बहुत ज्यादा लेते हैं. तो इंडियन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू और अमेरिकन पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू बोथ ये कितना हेल्पफुल है, प्लीज सजेस्ट कीजिए. थैंक यू.
Yeah, definitely, you know, there is studies and there is ongoing research regarding different vitamin, minerals, and what can help to develop the immunity. And if you get the disease, then decrease the severity of the disease. Just to let you know that every patient who is admitted to the hospital here in the United States, they get vitamin C 1000 milligrams, and they also get zinc, like 220 milligram of zinc. So this is the standard protocol that all the patient, other than, you know, hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin and other medication which are available, we start them on vitamin C and on zinc. And yes, vitamin D, which is a very important virus and which we get through the sunlight, it can also help in developing the immunity. In a research in Chicago, they have tried vitamin C intravenously. So vitamin C was given through an IV to these patients, and what they have shown, and it is not proven yet, is that it helps or it fastens the recovery of the patient from this disease. Lot of ongoing research, but for now, you know, if the doctor have suggested you taking vitamin D and vitamin C, I think it is a good idea. And on top of it, if you can take zinc supplement, that might also prove to be helpful in fighting this virus.
Okay, we have Amit Jain, Senior Railway Officer. If yes, please, Amit ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. My question is Dr. Bhandari, sir. Dr. Bhandari, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Sir, actually I heard some news about the spreading of coronavirus through files. We usually used to deal with the files in our offices, and we don't know who is basically contaminated with the virus. So how it is cracked, or what is the probability of getting the contamination through files? Because I have heard in the Rajasthan that 17 offices were contaminated through files. Is it true or?
No, it is true. If a coronavirus is spread on the paper or cardboard, it stays alive for 48 to 72 hours. Yeah. So if you have someone who has handled your files and who may be a known COVID patient, or who could be suspect COVID patient, or who could be a spreader of the coronavirus, and anyone doubtfully your file has been handled by someone, so it will be wise that after handling any file or paperwork, it will be very important to continue hand hygiene. In fact, any kind of handling you do by your hand, you need to have sanitizer on your table or soap and detergent in your office. Any kind of handling of papers, files, etc., you need to keep cleaning your hands even with the sanitizers. Take 3 to 5 ml for 20 seconds, or with the soap and detergent for 20 seconds, not knowing who might have handled this file, because even on the paper and cardboard, the COVID-19 virus live alive for almost 48 to 72 hours. So hand washing and hand hygiene is the most important. You need to be careful, and even if it's an office, it will be advisable to use mask. In fact, these days, mask should be the must. Whether you are working in office or going out, etc., mask is a must, because you don't know the person who is visiting you might be a spreader, because big number of patients are asymptomatic. They might be asymptomatic carriers, asymptomatic spreaders, who themselves don't have any symptom, who never got themselves tested, but they may turn out to be like a simple flu or influenza. So using mask and hand hygiene is the best protection you should do.
Yeah, before calling, yeah, please.
So one of the reasons that this virus is so contagious and deadly is because of its ability to survive on objects and surfaces. Now, just to explain a little bit about what the virus looks like under the microscope. So under the microscope, it looks like a crown, or in Hindi, what we say mukut. So the virus has spikes on it, and that spikes help the virus to stick to the surfaces, and its survival on the surfaces can vary from 2 to 9 days, and that's the reason that we have to be very careful. Anybody and everywhere you can get the virus from, and that's the ability of the virus to survive in surfaces, in objects, and that's why, as has been mentioned, that hand hygiene is very important. So I'm not surprised that it can be spread from files, and it can be spread from restaurants and from hotels, and by just touching the doorknob. If a person has touched a doorknob, and if you say after a few hours you go and touch the doorknob, you can get the virus. And the other thing which is being studied and which is shown is that the virus can survive in the air for as long as 3 hours. So let's say if anybody sneezes or coughs near you, those virus droplets and those viral particles can stay in the air for 3 hours. So it is very important to cover your cough and sneeze, to keep a handkerchief or something so that you don't cough on anybody, and those droplets which can stay for 3 hours in the air can also help in the spread of the disease, and that's why we call it as an airborne disease, or a droplet. It can spread to the droplet, and that is why it is so contagious, and it is affecting people all over the world.
We have many participants who want to ask questions, but before I hand over to Shri Vimal Singhvi ji, our director from Jaipur, and one of the person who mooted this idea, I ask Akash, just at random, many have raised their hand, if we can choose any to ask their question. Or Kala Sahab from Jaipur has raised, if Kala Sahab is there from Jaipur, GITO chairman, Jaipur chapter, Vivek Kala ji. Or Akash, we have Dilip Surana. Akash?
So we don't see Kala Sahib or Surana, Dilip Surana, but on random, there is this question from Ashish Dhariwal. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Sir, good evening. This is Ashish Dhariwal, Chief Secretary, Visakhapatnam. My question to Dr. Surana and Dr. Bhandari, either one you can choose. Like they say that this virus stays in the throat for 4 days. So if you were to take some hot water and all, it prevents from going into lungs. And secondly, the Ayush Ministry guidelines, how helpful are they? So I just like to an answer for that, sir.
Truly speaking, there's nothing like that. It stays in the throat for 4 hours. But yes, warm water gargles are better. And I think it makes you feel good, and it will definitely helps you to clean. Definitely, if there's been a recent exposure and recent inhabitation, I think it can be taken care of. The Ayush Ministry's guidelines, they are to build up your immunity. Probably, again, all these guidelines, warm water gargles, etc., can be adopted, but there is no substitution for the standard protocol of masking and hand hygiene. I think these guidelines of Ayush Ministry are to build up your immunity, and gargling, etc., prevent if any impaction of the droplet infection. It will be better and useful for clean it off, as I initially mentioned about taking stimming and cleaning the nasopharynx and the sinuses also. So, but there is no substitute and no second to the hand hygiene, not touching the hand to the face, nose, mask, nose, eyes, and masking. This is very important, and you can follow all these guidelines to build up immunity, but that's just add-on, a supportive things for the present crisis.
So once somebody is infected by the virus can stay in your body and in your nasal passages, in your upper respiratory tract for anywhere between 4 to 14 days. That's why the guidelines say that somebody who is infected or who has developed symptoms should isolate themselves for 14 days. So the ability of virus to stay in the nasal passages, in the upper respiratory tract, in asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic patient for up to 14 days is what is known so far. And that's why, people who get symptoms, they are advised to isolate themselves for 14 days so that the virus transmission can be decreased significantly.
Ajay Bora ji, Ravi ji, you want to ask any question?
No, Harshdeep, you please go ahead.
Okay. Akash, we can take one last question.
No, then I would want to ask Harshdeep if that is the case.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
So the question to either of the speakers is, based on your first-hand and the frontline experience, in terms of the timeline, what would you think would be the timeline for India to come back to normalcy, or at least close to that?
Dr. Bhandari. I think we have temporarily lost signal with Dr. Bhandari. Akash, can you check?
Yeah, I'll work on that.
Yeah. In the meantime, if any question for Dr. Surana?
So I cannot talk about the Indian scenario, but in the United States, what we are seeing is in most of the parts of the country, we are seeing the flattening of the curve, meaning that we are not seeing the exponential increase in the number of cases. So the number of cases are now flattening, meaning that the new cases are not developing as rapidly as they were at some point of time. So we are in that stage, and hopefully, if we can remain in this stage after a few months' time, or maybe by July, we are hoping, and it is all speculative, and it is all just based on our previous experience with flu virus, is that once we are in July, then the number of cases will decrease, and we will be able to come out of this pandemic situation that we are in. Now, having said that, this virus is going to stay with us for a long time. We don't know for how long, but like flu virus has been there forever. We might have to live with this viral or this virus, which is now like coronavirus on top of the normal flu virus. So we in medical field believe that this virus is here to stay. It will stay for a long time, but it will be interesting to see how the number of cases change with the change in the weather, more heat and humidity. So that will be interesting, but we hope that there is flattening of the curve all over the world. I think India is really fortunate at this time that there are not too many cases. And I was just reading in the newspaper that the doubling time has increased to as much as 10 days, meaning that the number of cases which are doubling, that time period is increases. So if you have that where the doubling time is increases, that is a very positive sign, meaning that we are getting a hold on the virus. So if we can further increase the doubling time, that is what the effort is from the government and the health professionals. And in the US also, we are not yet there, but we are hoping that we will be there soon, and we will be able to better manage the conditions.
Sure, thank you. Now over to
we have very senior doctor, Dr. Fateh Singh Ji Mehta Saab. If you want to share any views, opinion, any question, Dr. Fateh Singh Mehta Saab.
Can you please identify the ID?
He is principal and controller. He has
Sure.
written.
Yes.
Dr. Fateh Singh Mehta Saab.
All right.
So
Can
please
you
go
hear me,
ahead.
sir? Yeah,
Yes,
all right.
sir.
This is
Thank you.
my comments, my compliment to Dr. Sudhir and Dr. Jay for
Sir, we are unable to hear. Akash?
I think it got muted on his end, probably, or the signals are weak on his end, I think.
Okay.
Do we move to Vimalji then, our director?
Yeah.
in charge?
Akash, any one last question? Yeah, then we can request
Ajay.
I think
Do we have Ajay ji online? He had a raised hand. Ajay Bansal. Okay. Ravi sir, you had question. Ravi Jain sir.
no. Now let's move to vote of thanks. I think.
Okay.
Okay, we
Just
can
after
request Vimal Singhvi ji, our director from Rajasthan, to please give a vote of thanks to our speakers and participants. Vimal Singhvi sir.
Jai Dinesh, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. We are able to hear you, but we are unable to see your video.
I think they have off it. I am on.
Yes, please, sir.
It's okay now?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, now we can hear you.
Thank you, Doctor. You have been an excellent thing, and thanks to Harshji. He has given an excellent opportunity to all of India on this COVID and quarantine time, and everyone is being helped a lot by your speech, your guidance, and all your things, what you have taught today to all the participants will be a great help. And I thank Raviji, Ajayji, Bora, and all other participants for being here with us. And at this great time, and I would ask Harshji to continue this type of things all and again and all in different fields also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sudhir Bhandari Sahab, Dr. Jay Surana, for your time, and to all participants, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Bhandari.
Everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Harshji.
Thank you, Ajay ji.
Outstanding session.
Thank you,
Outstanding
everyone.
session.
Thank you.